Hello and welcome to AAA Wargaming. It's another battle report, and this time another friendly after the triumph of Cardiff, a feat of 63 points and coming ninth, 10th, I think, but something I'm not going to achieve again in a while. Uh, I had a bit of a friendly here now, so this is battle report number 31. Went down to the local Spiky Club, so if you don't know where that's, I just thought I'd advertise that actually this time. It's a place in Reading. If you just look up Spiky Club, uh, it's in somewhere called Maidstone, and it's at the local town hall there on a Friday evening between 6:30 and 10:30, and it's a great place. So I was played a relative newcomer, Tom Hayward. I know he's gone down to Rory Stove's 3,000 pointer, and that's what we decided to do today. So I was playing as Infernal Dwarfs with 3,000 points. The map was not official, so it's just something we plonked some terrain out just for ease. I mean, we weren't really that bothered. And then we rolled for deployment, which was Dawn Assault and Second Objective Breakthrough, which I really like. And something it was only when we double checked the rules for this. So Breakthrough only matters when you're in a deployment zone. So having a Dawn Assault minimizes part of their deployment zone, which comes into effect quite well in this game as well, actually. So it was quite interesting. But it's also the first ever time I have played 3,000 points, I think, on a one-on-one anyway. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's the first time I played 3,000 points, and it was actually something quite cool. Lots of people talk about it, and I found it a really interesting prospect of only one unit and what you can fit in. So let's get on with the battle report. So this was his list. This is Prophet General, Prophet of Asherak, and something he pointed out to me that I just didn't realize. So they can choose the attribute after the spell is cast, which is really cool because it kind of keeps you guessing, so you don't know, especially if they want to get flaming up. Yeah, it's just really quite cool actually. It has a really cool dynamic because they can either go pyromancy and kill you long range, and then when they go into combat, that. And then he had the dragon staff, which obviously I was a bit like, great. But something about this, he doesn't have a lot of flaming banners, so I was pretty happy with this. So as long as I top Swords of Ruin, that's it. But interestingly, I get to play Pyromancy with a master, so I'm guessing he's going to take the new spell about +1 resilience. Yeah, so let's see how that gets out in the game. It was going to be an interesting one. You then got a Vizier, which has 2+ save, paired weapons, and Ring of Desiccation. I can't remember what that does, but also MR1. Uh, they both went in the Infernal Warriors with the new one, so they've lost the Ziggurat regulars, so that's no fighting extra rank, but he's effectively got a shield for that range save. Gives him a 3+ for range weapons, which is good against me with that classic AP1 and great weapons. So I was quite lucky that I think we spoke about it afterward, beforehand. And I said, well, sorry, no, afterwards actually. We spoke about it afterwards. I said, look, if you're going to do that, I think maybe take a flaming banner on them because suddenly it just creates a horrible option for anyone because you're going to get the alchemy attribute off hopefully at some point with the Wizard Master at 3,000 points, and that unit does become quite dangerous if they have a flaming banner. So that's the same thing. Otherwise, you've got 20 vassal levels with paired weapons and bow. 20 shackled slaves. So these have got the new rule about what's it called, unstable, which I found really interesting. They're still quite dangerous for silver nails actually because they're still res 4 with shield as parry as well. So anything but my blade dancers or anything with paired weapons is going to still have an issue with them. So I think it came up on Paired Weapons podcast about big units of these, and yeah, actually, I can quite agree with that. We're lucky that they don't have that you can fire into them and kill them all, and people can't use their magic behind because that would really screw a few armies up. They'd really struggle with that. But it's still I really like the concept of slaves being unstable and never breaking, and yeah, well, it's interesting. They don't never break. They're not fearless. They still fail panics. If I'm wrong on that, tell us because that's what we read and we had a look through. I mean, it was interestingly, yes, I was more experienced and I should know the rules better, but I've been out of it for a bit of time and it's amazing how much skill fade or knowledge fade you have fairly quickly. Anyway, so that was that. Then 10 Taurican Verses with Infernal Weapons and Shields, so parry. I wasn't so worried about the blunderbuss because I mean, fives, yeah, you're going to be I can probably do something about that. But yeah, it was more Inferno Res 5. I didn't realize how bad that was, but it's actually a really, really tough unit, and I quite like it for only 470 points. So unless you have something that can go to Res 5, Strength 5 at least, you're really struggling. And it only takes one bad roll where you just need 4 plus, and suddenly you're really up against it with this unit, especially with parry, because mine unit that goes through that has blade dancers, but then they're only strength 4. So meh. Especially when you couple that with the new pyromancy spell for +1 to or -1 to wound for shooting and combat. So actually, they can become a really tough unit. So I think it's quite interesting actually. We then got 3 Turk Anointed with great weapons. I did ask, I was like, can you imagine great? It was only when I realised Infernal Weapon and Shield were parry. Can you imagine 3/6 Turk Anointed with Infernal Weapon and Shield? So parry, strength 6. I'd be very interested if someone could put in the comments why that's not run more often. Maybe it's points, or maybe Great Weapon is just better for what you want. I don't know. Then you've got 5 Vassal Cavalry, good chaff. Yep, just annoying. So between both vassals, you need going to be putting these flaming icons on me. So yeah, that's not great. And then he's got the Infernal Engine with a nap to throw and Fires of Industry. So I was very much like, right, I need to keep this thing away from my blade dancers. That's probably my biggest priority at the moment. I wasn't too worried. I can take a hit with the monsters that I have. And then Infernal Engine, there was only one real unit in my army that could take that on and probably take it out, and that's my Tree Father, just because it's Res 7. So overall, I was like, I need to pressure the pyromancy so he can't get too close, but again, not going to have much thing. It's going to be interesting playing the Infernal Warriors, but because they haven't got a Flaming Banner, I'm not too bothered. So I think that's where my monsters are going to have to go and just try and minimize the amount of stuff. And because they can't fight in extra rank, he's either got Horde or he's choosing rank bonuses. So it gives him a choice. Tauric Enforcers didn't really know how I was going to deal with them because they're quite mobile. Didn't know about the Tauric Anointed. Try and just threaten him with my Wild Huntsman and Blade Dancers, and then shoot off the rest and try and put the Tree Father into the Infernal Engine, whilst also trying to fight the Infernal Warriors. So I didn't, yeah, wasn't a great plan, but that was kind of the essence of it. In terms of my list, it was like, right, I like my Dragon model, let's put that in. I like my Tree Father model, let's put that in. I like my Blade Dancers with my Chieftain, let's put that in. And we'll work around that. I didn't know what army he was going to take. I always like taking Potion of Strength. I thought maybe he's probably going to have some sort of monster or Infernal Engine, so I put that in there. Otherwise, just took Sylvan Blades, magic weapon, keep them cheap apart from Aether Icons. And then I got 2 units of 10 Sylvan Archers just to give myself a bit of shooting, and Heath Hunters with Chaff, and then 5 Heath Riders. So I just wanted that scoring. So no matter what, I wanted 3 scoring still. I think that's quite strong. And then the Tree Father, 7 Wild Huntsmen with Lance, Shield, and Champion, and then 10 Blade Dancers. I really think, especially after this battle, actually, Wild Huntsman with, if you can have the option of taking double strength buff, Wild Huntsman and Silver Blades are probably the preferred choice now. But if I couldn't fit double, +1 strength, at least one of those spells into this unit. I think if you've got +1 strength once, you probably don't want to take paired weapons, but if you can get it twice, which you could with this list, I just wanted to take a dragon, so yeah, this was the best way around of doing it. And also try out druidism as a master thing. I just wanted to see how it played out. So that's my list. So it's reasonably mobile with some scoring and a couple of monsters just to run around a bit. So, but not too bad. In terms of magic, I had to choose first, and I ummed and ahed about whether to take Stone Skin, but actually, I wanted to take Master of Others, see how useful it was. I think you've got to take. I think if you're going to take a healing spell, you've got to take both really. And then I chose Entwining Roots just to have a cheap one, because also he has a lot of offensive 4 stuff, so I can suddenly change it around with the Blade Dancer, so they're hitting them on 5s because they're defensive 6. I'll come back to that. I'm going to do a quick review on these 2 spells at the end. So I think there is a, I think I'll come back to that on what it is. But those are my logic was I needed 2 healing spells, so that's there too. I took him 20 routes because he's got the flame cannon. At least I can make him hit on me on a 4+ rather than that, or his vassals, or his I can get his blunderbuss that, but mainly for the combat debuff. And then I chose Master of Earth because I wanted to be able to start plinking his wounds away. I haven't got any Pathfinders, so that his armor's going to be quite bad for me. And I just thought there's a reason because it's now from certain types of terrain rather than that. I just thought that was the way to go. So that's why I chose not to take Stone Skin now. It's also because Stone Skin's only worth it in combat, so that was the other thing. And then he chose both the sort of combat buff, combat debuff with Flaming Swords, Cloak of Cinders, or protection and offensive power, so that was going to be cool. And then Pyroclastic Flow and Envelopping Embers. When I looked at that, I just went, so the one I've got to stop at long range is Pyroclastic Flow, really, because that's going to, because he hasn't got many flaming shots or stuff like that. So Pyroclastic Flow is going to be the issue. And that's why effectively, because that's always going to hit me on strength 4, so win me on 3s, while enveloping embers, however bad it is, it's going to win me on 4s. So that was the one I was going to stop. That was actually a good thing to choose before the game of working out in combat what I was going to stop. And I think I made a choice of either it's Cloak of Cinders for any of my infantry or cavalry, and it's going to be Flaming Swords when I've got my True Father or Dragon Mage in combat and stuff like that. And then in range, I chose Pyroclastic Flow. So actually, I think that was quite good. It sped my choice of dispelling off up quite quickly, which is something I didn't really have a thought about in Cardiff as much. Maybe I'm a nerd a bit, so something I'm going to take forward. Deployment. Right, so let's have a look at this. So this is my forest that I set up. So what we did was impassable here. Got a hill each side, one hill each. Got another wood in the center, and then we've got this field on the left-hand side. I rolled off, and I won the side for deployments. So I did. So I did that, and I deployed there. Yeah, so I chose to deploy first, and I chose this side one because otherwise, if I'd chosen the other side, I would have put that in his side of the board, and that would have been quite unfair. I just thought, yeah, let's just leave that side. I don't want that. It's 6 one, half a dozen the other. Yeah. So what we had was this side was probably not going to have very much fighting in, and this was where it was going to be. And I just put the forest here just to protect this a bit more, just to hold it in the center and something so that I can go and advance into with my blade dancers. I have a choice either there or there. He then got the option of going first, and he decided to drop. And let's go through here. So what he did was he's got his vassal cavalry here. This is after Vanguard. They were there. They've come forward. Then got his shackled slaves there. So coming forward, chaff me up. He doesn't know what army where I'm deploying at this point. He's got his infernal warriors with both the mage and the BSB in there. He's then got his infernal engine here, quite central, but probably quite good. He's then got the vassal levies over here just to come up here and basically walk into my deployment zone. And he's got the turret commissioners coming around there and the turret connoiter on the far side. So I saw this and realized what he'd spread out, which is probably a correct thing to do, but I was quite happy with that. So what I did was I just deployed out of his range pretty much for most of it. So I made sure he couldn't come forward and hit them. I was quite happy. I kept them out of range as well, but I didn't want them to come too far forward, so I just sort of threatened around here. Keep them back for a turn. I put the dragon and the tree father in center. That's mainly because he's put them on the far side, and I was like, cool. I'm not too bothered about anything in here. I put the blade dancers there because I did think about putting them back here out of range, but actually I just thought, no, let's put him up center, and if he comes forward, I can get an early 3-point charge into here, or I can be out really aggressive, because the idea being if he comes forward and they start moving round on my left, his right, I could bring forward and I could potentially move my Wild Huntsman into a flank here quite quickly, engage him in the center, and I could destroy this pretty quickly before his actual strong combat elements that I'm going to have more struggle with because they're res 5 on a flank coming around to actually affect him. And I've still got some chaff here to slow him down quite easily. I chose my archers on the right, and that was just to keep them out of range so that they can go onto the hill first turn. And then I've got the Heath Riders over there. So again, you can't see them, and their plan was literally to go at the right hand flank and get into his deployment, and then one of the archers to slowly follow, starting probably about turn 3 to make it round, and that was it. Cool. ID turn 1. So have I got no? Okay, so what he's done is he literally just brings his army up slowly around here, and it just comes around to here. I think his vassals are out there, but really his only shots are his. He can't shoot with that because he's not too close. He doesn't want to get in range because I'll charge him, and that could have been badly. He tries to shoot with the vassals there, and doesn't really do anything. So my turn of keeping everything out of range is okay, but his magic phase. So this is an enveloping embers, so he's rolled quite well. So he's got 5 of them off. I don't think I made a single Aegis save of 6+. But I stopped the pyroclastic flow, which is probably an important one. And now we get a good test my turn to see what druidism will do on its first outing. He also got with the vassal levy. He's got a flaming icon off, and then I was like, yeah, I think it was. Don't know why he did that, because I was like, he's got flaming. I did point that out. But I think he just wanted to see if he could take some wounds off as well. Just start whittling away at that. My turn 1. So my plan here, as you can see, he's not moved up that. Sorry, that unit is actually there. So you see, I've kept him far back as much as possible. What I did was I moved the Wild Huntsman back so I could just keep them in reserve a bit more here, so I can react over here. So I'm still holding a delaying action on my left-hand side. You keeping them there, just start whittling away at the vassal levy. In the center, I've moved my monsters round, keeping them away from the forest, because what I wanted to do, and what I did, was I moved this forward here in the magic phase. What I wanted to do was make sure that if he wants to come into this area and start advancing him further and start affecting me in magic, he's got to make himself lose stubborn, or lose steadfast in the forest, and therefore I'm going to start charging him and with my monsters probably take him off. I've moved my blade dancers back because I wasn't expecting that many hits, but actually it's probably about average. And just to start testing on that, what I should have done, I think, actually, is move them around here and start threatening this side again, but I just didn't want to take another magic phase and a shot, because and then my archers have come up on the hill, just going to try and take the vassal levy off, and you can see my Heath Riders starting to come round the corner there. Oh, these are, I got some Silver Elves dice. My mate got me them as a present, and I love them. I love them to bits. They're really quite cool. Right, in Magic, this is what happened. I have brought every single one of the models back. He did have some bad dice rolling, but actually, it's really cool having not having to worry about Open Throne and getting that off and just throwing spells at it. It was just very simple, because all it takes is one failed trying to stop a dispel, and you suddenly got 2 healing spells off. And actually, it's the reliability factor has gone off significantly, I think, especially with a mobile character that's quite tough and you can throw around a bit more like a dragon mage. So just for thoughts. In shooting, less successful. Only 2 of the vassal levies got off. That's probably average. No, they've got a 4 up save, so it goes to a 5 up. Yeah, he rolled like an absolute boss, but only 2 of them died and they passed their panic check. So that was turn 1 over, but still starting to go in the right way. But as you can see here, the forest is very much there now, so it's probably holding his line up a bit, and he's got to be quite aggressive. He started moving his left up more aggressive, but he still doesn't want to come in range with the Wild Huntsman because they're quite threatening on this side. So I'm quite happy with that. The vassals have moved up. They're not in range of them, but they can still shoot the dragon. He's still not really in range of that. He hasn't been quite aggressive. He doesn't want to get charged by both monsters. But otherwise, he's moved up to make sure he's in range of my archers, and he's allowed. He's brought the shackled slaves up. So this is so they can get around the hill, start getting into. Maybe gives me a choice. Either I let them pass into my archers, where maybe they could do something, and they're still potentially quite dangerous for them, or he can use them to chaff my monsters whilst he brings his faster elements on his left round. My main concern at the moment here, and he's obviously blocked my tree father in the middle with the stuff with the vassals. My main concern is not getting chewed up, but I think by moving the forest into there, I've kind of given him a bit of a dilemma there. so that he can't come too close to vassal cavalry, because if I just go through, that's it. Ooh, there we go. Right. He then gets in magic, he gets the +1 to wound off of the shackled slaves, just in case I charge all my stuff into them. So they're now res 5 with parry, which is interesting. Right, my turn. Go back to here. Something you will notice, they could see them, and they're definitely within 16 inches. So in true Wild Huntsman style, they fail a frenzy check, on a rerollable as well, and charge. So now I've got this unit in the flank, and I thought, crap. So I went for it with the Tree Father as well, and my thought was I could overrun the Tree Father to protect them in case they rolled a low one, and then also get the Wild Huntsman out of the way. So that was my thought there, and then I wanted to block the Shackled Slave, so I moved the Dragon around. So the Dragon can't be charged by the Infernal Engine, or the Great Weapons, really, from the angle, but I was like, yeah, against Shackled Slave, it's okay. And you can see my Heath Riders are now out of line of sight of pretty much everything and just waiting to go into the deployment when I require it. So, yeah, and that's it. I've brought my Heath Riders back round now because I think they're just going to get trapped here. And quite frankly, now the Wild Huntsmen are there, there's nothing stopping them bringing forward. So I'm going to have to think about this quite carefully. I didn't want to bring the blade dancers up too far in case they didn't overrun, they got charged, and then have another overrun there, and I just get bunged up and I lose 2 of my key combat units here minus my monsters. So that was my thought process there. In terms of magic, I didn't really get anything off. Oh yeah, no I did. I used so in magic, all I did was try to get I got Master of Earth off. So he stopped in 20 roots because I tried to cast that on his Infernal Engine. But he did have to let Master of Earth off, and that's those 2 that are dead at the back there. So that was it. So that was me. And otherwise, I wiped out the unit and then overran. That was my Heath Riders shooting off a couple of vassals. Oh, which way am I going? That way. Yep, sorry. So that was them. And then afterwards, the Tree Father overrun far enough, and the Wild Huntsman got out of the way. So I've got a bit more protection there. But I do think Wild Huntsman are going to take it in the neck in terms of next turn between his Infernal Engine and his Flame Weapons, and there's nothing really I can do about it. But I have got First Blood, I have got rid of some of his chaff, and his slaves are probably going to be mine next as well. So slowly a small amount of points. So a couple of 100 points, and I haven't lost. And actually 300 points means a lot more in this. So it's still a tenth of the army coming to me shortly. And he still hasn't brought his fast elements round. So I'm still not in a bad position, and I'm starting to line up elements to start scoring. So I'm pretty happy with that. My only problem is because of this impassable and getting bunged up here, these archers are going to have to start moving now and use turn 3, 4, 5, and 6 to move into his deployment zone to get that second scoring unit in. So I'm going to have to lose one of my archer units probably a turn earlier than I wanted to. I was hoping to do that. So from turn 3 onwards, they're pretty much going to be out of the game. ID turn 3. He charges his slaves into my Tree Father Ancient and then just brings forward. So this is where the forest placement in the center here has worked quite well. He doesn't want to bring those on too far in case it does nothing and they get charged by the Tree Father and just get eaten alive. And he's brought the Infernal Engine because that doesn't care onto there. And the idea is everything's gonna flame at the Wild Huntsman and just have a go at them. Otherwise, he's moved his battle line, as you can see, and he's just bringing forward. So, right, magic. So I obviously stop Pyroclastic Flow, and then he has to go with Enveloping Embers, and he gets a 222. So he gets Enveloping Embers off, which doesn't really do much, but he does get... but he does lose a few of them, so 222, so he gets D6 Strength 4 hits on his unit, and he takes a couple of them off, and that's pretty much it. So not a great magic phase for him. what happens in combat is I kill a few of the shackled slaves, but always because they're unstable now, they stick. And then in shooting, he does pretty much like 1 or 2 runes to the wild huntsman. Doesn't really do that much, and the unit is very much alive still. So that's good. In my turn, I feel like being a bit more aggressive here. So what I do is, because he's moved forward slightly, and this is pretty much at the end of my turn, but what you can see is I decided not to charge in my dragon to the shackled slaves because there was enough of them there to for the tree father to kill off. I thought with unstable there was no fear of that at the moment. So what I did do was I moved these up here to block the infernal engine, whilst also being I had to move the blade down up so they're in 12 inches of BSB, so they won't fail a terror check. Also, if he charges, he'll have to take some DTs. They're over there. They're not blocking them from charging into Tree Father, but if he hits the Tree Father, not only do I get a stand and shoot, but I also he'll be won't be steadfast, so it's a big risk for him. So I don't think he's going to want to charge that. In Magic, I give him a bit of a choice, so I just choose Entwining Roots on the -2 to hit on the Blunderbuss unit, which he stops. And then I use Master of Earth. I roll really, really high on his Vassal Levy, but as you can see in the center, but they pass their panic check. But that's quite good because one of the things is getting down his scoring units. So I'm really happy. So actually, I like the Master of Earth spell. Like 2d6 Strength 4 is just so much more reliable, and depending on the type of terrain you have, you can always put and actually having that forest to put down and you putting it in the center and moving it into there just gives you so many options with Druidism. That's just something I'd learn for this. Like any Sylvaneth player with Master Druidism, yeah, like having that forest, drop it more central and move it around. Suddenly you can start dominating that bit because remember, spells can't cast from any forest, hill, or water feature. So yeah. In terms of magic, nothing really happens. I did get a wound through actually on the Infernal Engine with my 5 Heat Hunters, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I do shoot some more into the Vassal Levies as well, so they do lose a few more from the archers, but I've lost my other arch unit. I'm about to lose both my Heath Hunters. In his turn 4, he decides not to charge anyone. His fear was what I said last turn about losing steadfast. So what he's done is we talked about it. I just said if you do this move with the great weapon Infernal Warriors at the top there, at least you will have 2 monsters in the front rather than one charging in the front, one charging in the flank. So or something like that. He decides not to charge the Infernal Engine into the Heath Hunters in the hope that he can shoot them off with between magic and other stuff. And otherwise, he's just moving up to try and threaten my Wild Huntsman. He's taking a bit of risk now because I'm just to close me in and push me back into the corner here. In terms of magic, he gets Flaming Swords off on the Infernal Warrior unit, so I let that go because I was like, okay, I don't have to charge on this turn. I've still got 2 more turns after this round, so I was like, leave that one, and I just stopped all his other combat spells. In then shooting, he only killed 3 of them just because of that, and yeah, between the breath weapon and that, and the flame cannon, so that was pretty good. And then yeah, and that was pretty much it. And then he didn't do anything with the blunderbuss just because of that big range to try and hit them. He did. Sorry, he did take off. Oh, sorry, he did shoot with the blunderbusses into the blade dancers, shooting off 1. My turn. So I went all out. So my first action was to charge the Blind Huntsman into the Torque United, and he chose to flee, which is probably a good one because otherwise I think they would have gone in there. They don't have parry, so I'd have hit on 2s that with battle focus, then 4s and taken them off. And then I charged into here, and I lost 2 on a stand and shoot on the way in. Not good, but I still was pretty confident about this. Battle focus, even though I'm hitting on 3s because of parry. And then I also charged the blade dancers into his vassal levies, and that was then pretty much gone. So he was going to be down to 3 scoring units, of which 1 is so far away and just being chased around by 2 of my monsters. I left my Heath Hunters to charge his Infernal Weapons, and you can see now I'm starting to use this gap here to move my units through, but I still don't think with 20 inches there, maybe I could have done it, but meh. But either way, I've got 2 units into his deployment zone pretty much now or next turn, so I'm happy. So if I can kill this unit of turret commissioners between the Wild Huntsmen and Blade Dancers, I'm pretty good. And I thought that was pretty confident there. Um, in terms of up top, I didn't charge in because he had the flaming swords up, so I just thought, no, I'll spend some time shooting and just whittling them down the more, and just keep just doing that so that when I do have to charge in or he charges me, it's going to be easy to break his steadfast. In Magic, I do grow back the two on here because obviously it's giving him a choice. It's like, okay, stop one healing spell or stop the other healing spell. And so he stopped a healing spell. So I still got D3 raises back, and I've still got two Heath Riders, one Huntsman back. So yeah, great. That's what I mean. Having the double healing spell is really, really good. Right, in combat, because they're res 5, I only kill 4, and he kills 3. So we draw combat on my turn. Oh no, I win combat, but he's steadfast because I haven't broken his steadfast. I need to kill 2 more. So he did roll. I only got 6 wounds these, so he saved 2, but that's exactly average on a 5 because it went to a 5 plus save. 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it went to a 6 up. So he rolled slightly better, but not by much. So yeah, it's a res 5 is really tough, and he didn't even have the pyro -1 to wound at that point on or +1 to wound, whatever it is. But he didn't even have that on at that point, so that was really dodgy. Yeah, the blade dancers just went through them like hot knife through butter, and turned to face there because I realised that my wild huntsmen were probably going to die in his turn. In his turn, Toruk United passed on their leadership check on the bottom left, so now his turn 6, they'd be definitely coming in. So I really needed to kill this unit here to win the objective because I didn't think I had time because of that to block off. So what I'd done is my archers, I realised I wasn't going to get through that gap without being charged and risked, and so I had to go the long way around, and that's when I realised I don't think I can get there. So I needed to kill the Toruk Commissioners. I left them there just to take another round and just push these ones. I wasn't going to charge them. I was going to charge them on my turn 5, I think, just make sure I stopped flaming swords. In his turn, he didn't. Yeah, in his turn he didn't do much, but I think, yeah, that was it. He was just going to finish them off, flame them off, and then that was it, and burn them off. In Magic, he did a miscast, and then he got this through, so he's got +1 to wound. So now I'm not wounding him on 5s, I'm wounding him on 6s because he's effectively res 6. I was like, oh, so they're definitely dead. So that was them gone. I pretty much knew that. Not even the Wild Huntsman can stand up to that when they can't get past parry, even with bad focus. So unless I get very, very lucky. And then in Magic, he absolutely smashed me to pieces and took off a further 5 of them. So he got a spell through, which I couldn't stop. So I don't think I stopped. Oh no, sorry, I know what this is. He didn't shoot the Heath Hunters off. He used the cannon. So what we did say was, even though it wasn't, we like you probably would have moved there. So we treated that as a flank shot. So he got all 10 wounds and yeah, killed 5 off, which actually is probably slightly below average. So I was pretty lucky there. I rolled reasonably well on the saves. But it's going to be another test of druidism next round. He did kill the unit off completely. There was nothing left between my failed saves. Yeah, he wiped out the entire Wild Huntsman unit and turned to face. But as I'm facing him, I charged the Blade Dancers in. So just remember, he's now effectively res 6, so I'm wounding him on 6s. But I thought with my +1 AP and lethal strike dance that I'd be able to have enough attacks, roll some 6s, and at least break the steadfast, kill maybe 3 of them if I'm lucky. Yeah, lightly kill 3 of them because I'm going to go past his parry with paired weapons. He either gets a choice of giving me more models back, or I make him hitting me on 5. So I thought, yeah, I can do this. Otherwise, I charged both the Tree Father and the Dragon in. We'd already decided turn 5 was going to be our last one just because the club was ending, so I didn't move my archers at all on the back, and I just got 2 in. So the objective was going to be decided by the combat at the bottom and whether I could do any damage to his characters or break his unit there. Magic. So this is interesting. So this is it. This is what's really powerful. So I managed to push through Summer's Growth, partly because I threatened this with Entwining Roots, and he decided to stop Entwining Roots. So I cast Summer's Growth, and it's cast from a point on a terrain. So I cast it from that point there, which is in 6 inches of them and 6 inches of that. So it means I got D3, and I could have got Fountain of the Youth off. So I brought most of the unit back, and I brought my Heath Hunters back, all 5 of them, because it's D3 raises and wounds. So brilliant. So that was it. Right. Then we was running shooting, and then we got to combat. And I was probably right. This is my to wound roll. So there are 5, 10, 15, 17 rolls. So 3 sixes is probably not a bad guess. 1 6, 1 wound, 1 lethal strike. So 1 dead. So not only have I not broken his steadfast, but I also haven't broken anything. So now this is going to hurt because now I've got a 6-up save and I'm res 3. So he's hitting me on 4s, winning me on 2s, on strength 5. And he basically, we stick. So there's nothing there. So we've drawn an objective at the very worst. In this round of combat, he manages to do a wound to me with his BSB. And then I decide to, and then he challenges my dragon out with his champion. So I hit the champion, his BSB, then he's taken a wound on there. And then I decided to put all my Tree Father attacks into his wizard. At which point I complunked him easy. So that's his general and 500 points. So that's probably me getting the game because on points, because he's killed my Wild Huntsman. I've killed his vassals, his general wizard, and some of the bits vassals as well, and shackled slaves. He passes the panic check, and that's the game there. I do chow through a lot. So I think turn 6 I would have broken them. And then it would have been around. He does do 2 more wounds to me, and then it would have been around whether that combat at the bottom there, as you can see, he killed 2 of me, I killed 1 of him, but we drew. No, I won by 1 because I charged and BSB. So I won by a charge 1, and he just, because he's steadfast, he's stuck. So it'd be interesting on the next round if I could kill him off. I think it depended if I could stop his +1 to wound. But yeah, that was that. But either way, yeah, it's the end of the game, and you see there is it got starting to get reasonably bloody. I think in turn 6 it would have been quite interesting because we'd have probably finished off. So I reckon I'd have lost my Heath Hunters. That would have been interesting. I think that would have depended on my wound rolls and his saves. So it could have gone either way. I think I'd have had a slight advantage because I'd have just made sure I stopped the +1 to wound thing just to make sure I'm winning on 5s. And then I could have killed him on my turn 6. I think just held on or taken a 3+ Aegis and just made sure I can round him down and kill him next turn. And then I think it would have killed them. So I think it could have been bigger, but that could have gone the other way, and it could have been probably the similar score it is now, which was 12-8 to me. So low scoring, but I think that's because we didn't have turn 6 where I think we would have had some more things. I think his big problem was that I spoke afterwards with him, and I just said, look, the biggest thing was when you dropped, because I think that was your biggest problem here. When you dropped for that, when you dropped there, I was pretty happy. It just meant you spread out, and I decided which one I was going to. If you put the Torque Anointed on the other side and threatened me on both flanks with 2 hard res 5 cavalry units and then use your stuff in the center with your infernal engine stuff, that probably would have been better. But other than that, I was pretty happy. Yeah, that's how it goes. It was quite an interesting game actually with 3,000 points. So hopefully no one gets thrown out by that. But otherwise, a really fun game because his army I'll go through now. It's beautiful. Tom, when he puts stuff on our forum, it's such a good quality. Look at some of his banners, some of his units. Look at that cannon. It's coming out of a gorilla's bum, like we'll see in a second. Some of the detail and the facial expressions and that for his Tauric commissioners. It's really, really pretty, and yeah, like it's just superb. His Tauric anointed here as well. I love the detail, especially like you look on the right hand one with that nose ring that's coming there, and you just see the teeth as well. He's really taken some time on them and the facial expression, the eyes, and I think it's just a really cool look with that sort of semi-Roman barbarian like thing. I think it's really good, and he's brought out the shadow and the muscle really well. I just think it's, and the bases contrast quite a bit with it, so I think it was a real good joy to play. And then yeah, you can see here with this sort of gorilla He-Man thing and bit of trees and stuff. And I really like that model. I think it's really cool. Right, new pyromancy and druidism review, just quickly. Firstly, pyromancy. I think this is interesting, but it does mean if you take the Cloak of Cinders and Flaming Swords, it does kind of alter the dynamic a bit. So you don't have to worry as much about Fireball and Scorching Salvo and stuff like that. So actually, you've only got in a master 2 hitty spells, so you've only got one that's really going through. Now that changes if you've got Flaming Swords and you've got lots of power dice and some shooting models to really get in, but you can mitigate that. So I think that is changed, but it does mean that actually you've got to worry about that. -1 to wound is a big thing for us. Shooting as well, and yeah, shooting and combat. That nullifies our hit, and I suppose actually that might be quite dangerous for dread elves as well. Yeah, I think that might affect both us and them. We're quite hard hitting armies, and we like that, so I think that's going to be quite interesting. So you're going to have some definite real choices there. So that was the only thing on there. And then druidism. I'd say the biggest changes are the best. Yes, it's not as powerful, but it's reliable. And I think that reliability is really, really interesting. The Lee lines bit, like the hidden pass, I mean, it's quite useful actually. I think Wild Huntsman gaining Strider, brilliant. For Wild Huntsman charging through and stuff like that is so much more reliable when you think about that. So actually that is, and our blade and our units going through water features. Just that thing when you need to, the amount of times I've had Pathfinders that have just needed to go through something quite interesting or get around a feature to get out of the way and they've taken dangerous terrain and stuff. That's really good. But it measures, it can be measured from any forest, hill, or water feature terrain on the battlefield. If so, the range is set to 6. So this is, friendly root of the target point. Yeah, so this is incredible. Like, so having two healing spells, so you don't need to worry about, and not having Oaken Throne is just, yes, that's so good. So Fountain of Youth and Summer's Growth. I think if you're going to take one, you probably have to take the other. I think it just balances really well because it's even so like those are your 2 spells. It also makes your magic phrase quite simple actually. If you think, right, I need to re-heal this unit, especially if it's a valuable unit. If it's got lots of models in, you actually don't need to worry about if you're monsters or blade dancers, wild hunters and stuff. It's like, right, I'm going to give you Fountain Youth, Summer Growth. You're going to stop Summer Growth, which I might get through, but I'm going to get Fountain Youth through. Go. D3 wounds, or if it's a monster, it's raise 1 and stuff like that. Summer's Growth is probably a must stop. That grouping of units together, I can see very much how for this is this is going to be really painful against KOE with their knights coming back and how crumped they can be. I like Entwining Roots because now it's just about voting a powerful one. And actually, I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Healing Waters, less so. I think until we see the new book, see what the benefit of that is, just having another +1 fortitude. And fortitude +1 max. Gains fortitude 6+ and fortitude +1 max 3+. Okay, have I read that wrong? So it gains fortitude 6+ and fortitude +1 max. So does that make it a 5+ fortitude? I'd be interesting. Please put that in the chat. So does that change? Maybe I should have taken something. Maybe not in this game, but actually that changed the dynamic. And then Master's Verth. Yeah, I like that just because the range stuff. But this is the thing. So actually, you can use either Blade Dancers, especially against a combaty army that's got low offensive skill, Entwining Roots or Stone Skin. So either you're hitting them on 5s, especially when you think about Hunter's Honor, or if you've got the Hereditary. So you could give them a choice of Stone Skin, you're winning me on 5+, or you're hitting me on 5+, but rerolling 6s to hit because of our Hereditary. So I think I really like the new Druidism. I'm not convinced of it as an Adept though. Master of Earth maybe on Briar Maidens if they keep that spell, but I'm not convinced of it on an Adept. I don't know why. Just not sure. Maybe Entwining Roots, and Fountain of Youth you possibly could do, but I think it's, for me on Druidism, for Sylvan Elves, it's for my style of play, it's Master or nothing, but I could be completely wrong with that. Please someone come and tell me I'm an idiot and tell me why. I'd love to know a bit more, but that's my thought. Player Master, I think you've always got to take Fountain of Youth and Summer's Growth, and then it's a choice whether you want to take Healing Waters, Entwining Roots, Summer's Growth, and Master's Worth. or hereditary. The only thing I'd say bad about it is losing that second tree spell because I think you've got to play more sensibly with the likes of your blade dancers and just to make sure they've got that stubborn a bit is something that's a bit of a crutch for me. So this is now my crutch taken away, and I've got to actually think about where I put my forest now. Cool. But other than that, that was my thoughts. I'll do a bit of a review once the Silver Nails lists are out, and thank you very much. Yeah, so thank you very much for that. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and you have as lovely weather as we're having in the UK. It's a nice cold Crosby. So thank you very much. It's AAA Wargaming.